everybody's packets too, don't I? Are these to be given out, Pat?
Hey, Harold, I called you about that. Did you get a message that I called you this week? One of your secretaries.
I don't think it was
Yep, it's going.
Tell me about
Because
what.
the camera doesn't kick on until 6:30.
I'll talk to you about it later.
Okay, all right.
We don't need no.
No. No, it's this.
This is Pat's
Oh, wow.
workshop.
All right, guys, as soon as Katie hands that out, let's get started. Yeah,
he's
just
running a
5
couple
minutes
minutes
late. You just texted him.
Would you something?
Adequate
Now I
notice
can
of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6, published in the Asbury Park Press on January 5th, 2019.
Thanks, Katie. Roll call, please.
Mayor Coles?
Here.
Let the record reflect that Deputy Mayor Miller is on his way. Committeeman Lichtenstein?
Here.
Committeeman Ackerman?
Here.
Committeeman Delia?
Here.
Okay, Pat.
All right, we're actually going to roll right down property requests.
Go.
We're going to turn over right to Harold.
So everyone look in your manila envelopes. I feel like it's
Really boring, Howard.
pension.
All sorts of
Well,
colors and
I'm
whatnot.
not henchman. First one is Linwood Drive street vacation. The property owner surrounds Linwood Drive. If you look at the second page, you'll see the map where Linwood Drive is. It's farmland all around it. I did check with Effie, all the taxes are paid. They're asking to vacate that to give them back the piece of property. The only concern I think that came from Jeff was that the sidewalk continued across it, and I think a tree, a shade tree easement or something continue across it. We'll put that in the ordinance if you guys are okay vacating that.
All right, this stub of street, I mean.
That's the only
nothing.
thing. That's the only thing. And the farm surrounds it completely. It doesn't do anything.
Okay.
What is
Gentlemen,
it? I don't understand what you just said about the sidewalk.
that because it's a street, he wants to make sure if we vacate the street, they still put the sidewalk across it and maintain the shade tree easement that goes.
Yeah, you see the 6-foot wide utility and shade tree easement going along the frontage of the property on Ridge. We want to, if we vacate that street, we just want to make sure that easement continues across what was.
The sidewalk
Yeah.
easement. you mean?
Everything's got to stay maintained the way it is.
Oh, there's
The
a
only way
current
we're
sidewalk there, so it's not like a development or anything.
Oh, no.
just that
No,
No, it's-
that would all stay. Nothing would change on
So
that.
that if we yeah,
Yeah, we put the sidewalks on that a couple of years ago.
yeah.
And in the rough draft I rough drafted the ordinance, not to put it up yet, because you guys didn't want to, but in the rough draft, I indicated that we're not extinguishing the shade tree and utility easement which runs along Ridge Avenue, extends across. the
And you would sidewalk easement also?
Yeah, it's in there, that's what's on the map, shade tree and sidewalk. Okay, that's the first one. Is that, go with it?
Anybody? Okay?
Vacated?
Aye? You okay with it? All right, go ahead.
Okay. Second one is Bellevue Avenue, it's a street vacation. This one we're bringing to your attention, it was a request by Newport Estates. If you look at D2 in there, the little red square is what they're asking to vacate. It's on a bulb of a cul-de-sac. It sounds like it's a nothing thing, but I had concerns, and Ally had concerns as to turning radius, and why was it part of that cul-de-sac in any event. We got today a note from Jeff Stager, who said if they comply with RSIS and they make sure everything's okay and the bulb conforms, the cul-de-sac bulb, then they don't care about vacating. It's a 10 by 20 foot square property or
Well, if
something.
it's part of the cul-de-sac now, why does it need to be vacated?
Because they're doing something about extending, and I think Newport puts in their correspondence what they're doing.
How are you going to ensure that
To RSIS, I'll put that in, I'm going to contact them. My plan was to contact them and say, we'll consider the vacation or approve the vacation if you're going to make sure that the bulb.
I'd like to know what they're doing with it. I mean, if it's already part of a cul-de-sac, what do they need to vacate it for?
Let's see. It's part of a major subdivision, as shown on the subdivision map. It's being divided into 3 lots, 111, 112, and 113. It's going to extend the street frontage of one of the lots by a couple of feet. It's going to enhance lot 113 by providing straight 85-foot frontage on Bellevue Avenue. That's all. They're just adding to the, if you look at the map, you can see they subdivided that into 3 lots, and what they're doing is squaring off that lot to the far left.
Through the chair.
Mhm.
Mayor, my thought would be that we have Pat, our engineer, that knows the length of our fire trucks and knows the length of our trash trucks, go by there and see if, it's a tiny little piece, but to see if you need to get that into the turn.
It's gonna move it right up to.
But what avoids that, it makes you not have that first piece, you know what I mean?
Correct, to get
into.
around. Correct.
So,
I mean, by not doing it, we're not, taking a lot, making it undersized. I mean, you don't need that to make it,
No, I don't think so. Jeff's email from this afternoon is in the package. It's probably the last page.
I agree with that. Let's have Public Works look at
Take a
it. Mike, if you want to have the fire department weigh in on it, they're the ones who have to get in and around.
You wouldn't be able to
put sidewalks there if we vacate.
I think there are sidewalks, there may be sidewalks there already.
Well, that's another question, because if they, it's going to be touching pretty much the street.
Yeah, in Jeff's email,
Well, to
he
the
says...
planning board, I'm sure they asked for sidewalks, right?
Yeah, well, Jeff says that the proposed vacation appears to be within an area where there's currently a sidewalk or where sidewalk would be placed. Areas vacated and easements for sidewalk would be needed. He goes on to say the existing geometry of the cul-de-sac is unique. Applicant should demonstrate an RSIS compliant
Unique
cul-de-sac.
cul-de-sacs wording, so let's look at it. and
Just
bring
make
it
sure we
back.
get the trucks around and the sidewalks.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Jeff's
There was
okay with it. if
pictures
we
of
do
what's
those
there,
things.
so it would be a big help. Okay. Because if there's existing sidewalks, I'd like to see it closer up.
Third one is a request to sell Block 182, Lot 4, that came in from Krupnik. I sent Krupnik a letter saying that it's an undersized lot, but because our ordinance allows you to build on an undersized if it meets the side yard setbacks, it could be sold at public, and the proposed language in the ordinance is in my letter back to Krupnik, saying that it would have to go public. I think he wanted to try and buy it at a private, and I was advising him that it would, I asked him whether he's still interested in bidding at a public auction.
Allen or City?
Alan.
We're allowed to do that, we're allowed to decide to do it at a public sale.
It is quote-unquote buildable, according to the statute that talks about public versus private sales. If it conforms with the ordinance, our ordinance allows us to build on that piece, and that's but they've got to comply with the side yard setbacks. If they can't make the side yard setbacks, it's so undersized, then it's not a buildable lot.
Well, a single-family lot is not going to go for $6,800.
Yeah, it's not.
That's, yeah.
I guess that maybe when.
I mean, there's nothing developed back there, it's all open. This is behind, by Brook Road Park, I believe.
We put it up once before at public, no one bid on it. We put it at $165,000, and nobody showed up to buy it.
It should be worth more.
And Krupnik, well, I can put.
Ask Ed what he thinks it's worth today, bring it back to us, and then we'll decide what we want the starting, but, I mean, do we want to consider selling it, guys, if it's at a...
We could use the money. Is there any other use for it?
Why don't we do this, Harold, rather than, ask Ed, but send the Krupniks a letter stating that, we had put this parcel out once before, whatever the price was, 168, and that would be considered a starting point based on a possible appraisal. Is he interested?
Yeah, that's kind of what my letter to him indicated, so I'm waiting to hear back as to whether he's continues to have an interest and continues to ask for it to.
Now, before Harold sends that letter, are we okay with selling it?
Yeah. How long ago did we decide to sell it for 168?
16, I think it was.
2016. I don't have a problem doing it again.
Oh, just as a starting point, you need to talk to Ed.
Well, obviously, if we can get.
Mike,
good
What
price.
is the, what is it?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, it was
what
June
do you
of
want to put it
18.
up for?
June of 18.
Well, I'm not positive what we're going to put it up for. We're going to tell him that the last time it went for sale was 168,
Yeah.
and that's going to be our starting point. If he's still
Correct.
interested, we'll consider moving ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, because nobody bid it last time when it.
Well,
That doesn't mean
Unless it
anything.
says it's worth more.
Well, that's what I'm going to say. It'll be a two-pronged thing.
Minimum 168.
Before we invest any time and money, but I want to see if he's even interested in what it was put out for the last time. Okay.
The next one is, request came from Benas Devora to buy a piece of property. If you look at it, the color map where it says land sale request, it's probably the third page in or so. shows the property. Tenors Devar asks if they could buy this parcel. They have a school out there on Oak. They want to buy it to make it a parking lot. We communicated with them and said, this property is not adjacent to your property. It can't merge and be an accessory use. You would need a use variance to do this as a parking lot. Are you still interested in doing that? And we're waiting for a response from them. Okay? That was sent a week or so ago to YASA, and we haven't heard back from them, but we want to let you know. Because that's the problem. If it could merge, then it could argue it's an accessory use and all that.
But I don't understand. Does it have to go out for open public sale?
Yes.
Yeah.
And are we allowed to sell it and say we only want to use it as a parking lot?
No, we
Well,
could
you
put the
could deed
nonprofit
restrict it
restriction.
to
Right.
that.
You could de-restrict it and say only a parking lot?
Then
No.
the value goes right down the chute. Oh, down in value, sorry. I wouldn't do it.
You seem to be feeling better. See?
No, I don't.
Now, he's feeling bad still, that's why he's still.
Assessor valued at $600,000.
Yeah.
And they're willing to pay $600,000?
I don't know if they knew that that's what it was.
There, we were waiting to hear back.
In the package is their email, if you take a look, the email that Patrick sent to me, but on the bottom, they didn't send a letter, they just did it
You're
by
waiting to
email.
get back from them. Next.
Can I make one suggestion? Ask the mayor if maybe the committee would consider this, and Steve, if it's kosher. If, let's say, they're the successful bidder, and they only really want to use it for a parking lot, is it something that we can enter into a subject to? No.
You have to deed restrict it prior to your sale, and
That's going to lower the price.
substantially.
But let's say they don't want to close on it unless they, for whatever the price is. Let's say they say, we don't want to close on this if the zoning board won't grant us a parking lot here, because we only want it for a parking lot. Can we, or they, once they put down a deposit, they lose the deposit?
Unless you write, you have to write some very weird contract, and why do you want to get?
Well, it's a contract purchaser, you can go before the zoning board,
Okay, of
correct?
course.
Yeah, but the problem is that if it gets denied and they don't close, they lose their deposit.
It's gonna tie up that, if it's potentially a piece of valuable property, it's gonna tie it up for over a year.
But wouldn't we rather see it as a parking lot? They need the parking there. Why would we?
I don't know how much other that's the other thing, how much other property there do we own? I mean, are we cutting off our noses here about potentially another school site if we sell that off?
We've sold everything, it looks like, on the
Let's
block.
do this, we're waiting to hear back from them, so we might consider it if they're interested in that starting price. In the meantime, please look and see everything else that we own in that area, to see whether or not it makes sense to split that off, or we can combine them, and maybe be able to put another school, areas in there.
Yeah, 1144, we've got some property there. There's a
I don't need to
couple
know
of-
now, when you have a chance to look at it, let's see what makes sense.
Okay, okay. Serendipity is the next one, 1065 Lot 4. This is somewhat similar in that...
Mayor, I can't sit on this one.
Okay.
This parcel is catty-corner again to the property that Serendipity actually doesn't own, but they rent, apparently, and they're some sort of a charity that does things, and their letter indicates they do things with clothing, I think, and circulate it. They have requested that the township give them this parcel. Again, they're not catty-corner, it doesn't merge in and become an accessory use to...
I don't think they qualify under the statute for a gift.
Yeah, and
And that should be the end of it. If they don't qualify for a gift, Harold, what's the sense of doing it?
well, if you want to go put up for sale as opposed to just giving it to them.
We're not gonna, we can't give it to them.
No? $1051.09, lots 10 and 12. Presidential Estates requested that we put the property, those two lots up for sale so they can expand their community center. That is, if you look at the map they prepared, they've circled the two parcels that are the townships, 10 and 12. They're on 50, which is just south of them. That's where they have a community center. They've asked to buy those two parcels. We can't sell them 12. 12 is a detention basin, and it's part of Oak Avenue development of some sort. Ally put the nix on that, said you can't get rid of that. It's open space, it's a detention basin. 10 theoretically could be sold. It's 12,160 square feet. It could support a single-family home, school, or synagogue. has a land value, 10 has a land value of 13,500 at this point. And that's the,
But again, if it can support a single-family home, how can the value be so low?
oh, I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry. Oh, no, that's,
It's 12,000 square feet.
Well, let's do it in two phases. One, go back to them and say that
You just
lot
interested in-
12 is not available, would lot 10 suit your needs, and if it does, check with Ed, come back to us and let us know what the existing price is, so we can decide what we want to put it up for. I don't have a problem, I don't think anybody have a problem putting it out for nonprofit use if it's going to expand the use like that, but we got to make sure that we got the right number on it.
yeah, they had a typo in their request, they had the wrong block, and we figured out what they were talking about. It's the property next one, they just didn't have the
All
block.
right,
But-
so again, let's find out if 10 is going to suit their needs, and if it does, let's find out what it is, and then come back to us. After the next meeting, we can tell them, what we'd be willing to let it go for. But again, do we have, if we're doing it for nonprofit, do we have to put it out for public? If you say it's buildable, even though it's undersized?
You still have to put it out for public.
Yeah, because Ali says you can build on it.
Well, verify that with her, and then let them know what the,
But can you put it out public with the deed restriction for nonprofit?
Of course. Yeah, she says one single-family home, it's R12. She could get one single-family on it. It's 12,160 square feet of property, so.
Make sure we get.
so it's
the
conforming.
501c3.
It's conforming.
So it can't be
Make sure
13,000.
we get the 501c3 if they decide to do it,
Okay.
just because you don't make.
That's
money
it.
doesn't mean you're nonprofit.
Another one, Harold? I don't see another sheet here.
The last one you took off, right, Pat?
Yeah, we took that off.
Okay.
Yep.
Number 7's off.
Yeah.
But there was number 7 on the agenda.
Is there anything else for the property or for conference?
Nope.
What we have then is executive?
Correct.
All right. Hey, I'm not sure. Have a motion to go into executive session? Moved by Mike. Second by Isaac, all in favor? Okay, we're going to go into executive session. If we finish before 7:30, we will not be conducting any more business until we go down.
What is being discussed?
Contracts and,
They're both contracts.
yeah, both contracts. She's going to have to run for office, so if you keep bringing